Thank you very much, George. Our next reader is Sinéad Morrissey from her book Parallax. And I was thinking about that word earworm, one of those sounds that you can't get out of your head. You hear a song and it won't leave you. With me, it's the theme tune of Diagnosis Murder, because all poets spend all afternoon watching telly. And with Sinéad, there's a kind of equivalent of the earworm, that her poems just won't leave you. It's a kind of eye worm, or it's a brain worm. The lines stay with you. Lines like, she's learning this house like a psalm. What an amazing image. Lunar eclipse as a Chinese lantern. And not only that, not only images, but ideas as earworms are all the way through this book. Ideas about the persistence of history and how we can learn from it, and what we can learn from family, how we can learn through that. And I can reveal that the last time I introduced Sinéad in front of an audience was at Buckingham Palace, and the Queen and Prince Philip was sat there, and all the way through Sinéad's reading, the Queen leaned forward, and then halfway through, Prince Philip turned to her and said something, and the Queen nodded. So I think Sinéad made a great impression on the Queen and Prince Philip. And then towards the end, for some reason, Joanna Lumley was sat next to Prince Philip, and during Sinéad's reading, Prince Philip turned and they both nodded. Then Joanna Lumley started to smile, that amazing Joanna Lumley smile. So all the way through the poem, towards the end, it was illuminated not only by Sinéad's words, but by the reflection of her words in Joanna Lumley's amazing smile. And if that's not an earworm, I don't know what is. Sinéad.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to read two poems. The first is inspired by the Moscow Puzzles, which was a book of mathematical problems published in the Soviet Union in the early 1950s, and it was a runaway success. Puzzle. Vitya pledges his brigade of pioneers will plant half as many fruit trees as the other pioneers. Kiryusha pledges his brigade, the best of the detachment, will match the trees of all brigades together, including Vitya's. Their brigades work the last shift simultaneously. The preceding brigades of the detachment plant 40 trees. Both pledges are fulfilled exactly. How many trees does the whole detachment plant? Answer, a kind of Latin, finished and intricate, or a box of glass plate negatives from 1887, unearthed by accident of Newcastle Cloth Market. The oceanic white-tip shark. Ectoplasm. Natasha Ivanova on her collective farm, working out the most efficient way to harvest cotton. The actual answer is 136. And the next and last poem is inspired by the film A Matter of Life and Death, which many of you may already know. It was released in Britain in 1946, just after the Second World War, and it shows two worlds. This world, which is filmed in glorious Technicolor, and an afterlife, which is filmed in black and white. And there's an enormous moving stairway which links the two worlds. And I happened to catch sight of this film when I was going into labour with the birth of my first child, which, if it hadn't have happened, is a coincidence I would have to have invented. I'm just going to take a drink. A Matter of Life and Death. On the afternoon I'm going into labour so haltingly it's still easy to bend and breathe, each time the erratic clamp sets its grip about my pelvis, then releases. I take a nap, eat lunch, and while you pen a letter to our impending offspring explaining who we are, what there is on offer in the house we don't yet know we'll leave, to be handed over on his 18th birthday like a key to the domain. Sit front to back on an upright chair in the living room and switch on the television. World War II. David Niven is faltering after a bombing op in a shot-up plane. Conservative by nature, Labour by conviction. He quotes Sir Walter Raleigh, "Oh, give me my scallop shell of quiet, my staff of faith to walk upon," while a terrified American radio girl listens in. It's all fire and ravenous engine noise. He can't land because the fuselage is damaged and he hasn't a parachute. Then, because he'd rather fall than fry, he bails out anyway, a blip on the screen vanishing into cloud cover. The girl hides her face in her hands. The baby drops a fraction of an inch and the next contraction hurts. I know I'm at the gentlest end of an attenuated scale of pain relief, climbing the stairs, a bath, 2 aspirin, tapering down as the hours roll on and we relocate to hospital, to gas and air, pethidine, a needle in the spine, and go out to walk the sunny verges of our cul-de-sac like a wind-up fat man toy, tottering every 5 minutes or so into a bow. Nobody's home. The bins are still out on the road after this morning's pickup. The light aslant and filled with running gold. Back inside, the film has switched to Technicolor monochrome, an anachronistic afterlife in grey in which dead airmen sign in under name and rank. The Yanks smack gum and swagger, "Isn't this swell?" and a legion of otherworldly women with hair rolled high as dunes hand out enormous plaster wings to the just deceased. The dead are invoiced for like battleships or teapots, their names on the list ticked off as they swing through each allotted doorway clean and whole and orderly, the incomprehensible machinery of life and death, a question of books that balance. And there's this sudden tug inside, rigging, straining, taut, and singing, and I cry out for the first time. And in you come to coax and soothe as though I'm doing something, running a marathon, climbing a mountain, instead of being forced back down into my seat by some psychopathic schoolmarm over and over again, stay. And I think of my granny and her 46 hours of agony, shifting my mother from one world to the next, and how that birth cut short her happiness at the Raleigh bicycle factory in Nottingham, where her youth was spent in secret war work, typing up invoices. Back in heaven, there's about as much commotion as there's been in a million years. A slight shake of the head by the woman in charge, a sigh, because David Niven, who should have arrived but hasn't, landed on a beach and, how, survived, met the American radio operator as she cycled home after the night shift, and fell in love. He must be sent for. Down below, they're already looking post-coital, picnicking in civvies on a homespun tartan rug in a Technicolor rose garden. I'm not supposed to show up at the hospital for hours, or not until the cervix has done its slow, industrial cranking wide, enough to be marked by a thumb span. And the problem is, I don't know what this means, or how to tell, or how much worse the pain is going to get. Answer a lot. And so the afternoon grows hot and narrow and you abandon your confessions altogether. And the botched clock of paradise with 7 hands across its face ticks on the wall. I've seen it many times, said my granny. when a new life comes into a family, an old life goes out, as though there were checks and balances, birth weighted against death like a tidy invoice, and a precise amount of room allotted the living. Before we inch upstairs to the bathroom to test what sweet relief is granted after all by a bath and lavender oil, I catch sight of a magical marble escalator, the original stairway to heaven, with David Niven captive on its steps being hauled away to the sound of a clanking bell from his radiant girlfriend. And I imagine my granny, who died 3 weeks ago on a hospital ward in Chesterfield, making room as she herself predicted, not dumb and stricken and hollowed out with cancer, but young, glamorous, childless, free, in her 1940s shoes and sticky lipstick, clicking about the office of new arrivals as though she owns it, flicking open the leather-bound ledger and asking him to sign. Thank you.